Good morning everyone, today we're checking out a brand new video from XII about what if every member of the Olympos 12 could DNA Digivolve in Time Stranger's new DLC. Let's hop in and see what he's figured out.
A couple of years ago now, myself and a bunch of artists that work on this channel put together a custom art with some pairs we came up with based on real-world mythology and things like that to DNA Digivolve the rest of the Olympos 12 like Apollomon and Dianamon become Grace Novamon in Digimon canon. However, since the release of Digimon Story Time Stranger, we've seen some more obvious pairs put together in the narrative of the game, most of which we didn't pair up in our previous video. So at the request of a lot of you in the comments, we're running it back to give specifically the Olympos 12 of Digimon Story Time Stranger DNA Digivolutions. And you know, Hara, if you want to include them in the upcoming DLC, give me a call.
Time after time! Activate!
What is up, digital companions? My name is XII,
Good to be here,
back to another video, and yes, it's a custom art, baby, made possible thanks to my sovereigns and my Deva Artbringer over on patreon.com/XIEX. If you would consider joining my sovereigns, Jeremy Babineau, Chaotic Prophet, and ZDK14, plus my Deva Artbringer Murby Studios to make more custom art videos possible, and in general keep this channel going during down periods for Digimon news, it would mean the absolute world to me. Thank you to my sovereigns, my Davas, and everyone else who supports me over on patreon.com/XIEX. You're the best. So let's get into it. Custom DNA Digivolutions for the rest of the Olympos 12 besides Grace Novamon. And of course, this video does contain spoilers for Digimon Story Time Stranger.
Oh yeah, spoilers! If you don't like spoilers, leave. If you don't care, stay.
First pair that is most obvious, I guess, earliest in the narrative, perhaps, is Venusmon and Neptunemon, who we didn't pair up last time. They are, of course, united by their plotline as Shellmon and Divamon, and eventually as members of the Olympos 12, in the Abyss area, the water.
Okay, that's actually kind of cool.
Area. And I got dry on board.
The part of that is cool, is how they actually were partners in a prior form before becoming full-on members of the Olympos 12. I like that.
For this form, combining Venusmon and Neptunemon into Fontusmon. Try by a name that was based on something like fountains, and there are gods Fontus and Juturna, or Juturna, both Roman deities of fountains and springs. And I really like Fontus in particular as a name. Fontusmon just sounds like a good Digimon name. Dry really liked the story of Neptunemon and Venusmon, a story of love, trust, second chances, and a wine-red scarf, and the real-world mythological deities, leading him to think of geothermal vents at the bottom of oceanic rifts, from which life first emerged, the primordial soup. And water from volcanic springs has also been used for its medicinal effects since ancient times, combining both the destructive and healing properties of water, and of course, Neptunemon and Venusmon. Finally united in the wake of the Titans and Digimon feud, Venusmon now sits beside Neptunemon, and their love unites their people. On the day of their wedding, a new calamity struck the digital world Iliad, and the bond between Venusmon and Neptunemon erupted, an even greater tidal power in Fontusmon. For this video, instead of just doing the names of the attacks and what they do, I thought it'd be fun, as this is very intrinsically tied to Time Stranger specifically, if I described how the attacks would work in a future DLC or future game, and including how they actually work in the game if they were real. If this doesn't work for balance reasons, you look at a move and go, that's stupid, it's just a bit of fun. So Fontusmon's first special skill is the Fountain of
people, remember, this is all for fun.
Endless love. Fontusmon jets an intense spray of fountains from its tails and hands, targeting all enemies, and performs a water magic attack at 90 power with 100% accuracy. Then it targets one ally and revives from KO and greatly recovers HP. Its second move is Dragged to the Depths, where Fontusmon drops down into the water and then a pool of water appears below the enemy. Fontusmon's hand thrusts forth and drags the enemy into the waters below to barrage them with jets of ocean water. Targets one enemy, performs water physical attack
Dragged to the depths. I love it.
At power 100, and it always hits. Plus, if the target is yet to attack, it gets increased damage, with a 100% chance of a 30% reduction to attack or intelligence for 3 turns, and it removes stat buffs. Our next pair is Bacchusmon and Ceresmon. Of course, united in the Gear Forest, their plotline and a dead/resting Sirenmon eventually becoming Ceresmon. They are both guardians of the Gear Forest, so again a natural pairing, and for this, I got some bad guy to create Naturamon. Some bad guy wanted to show off Sirenmon as the pre-evolution of Ceresmon, and how Bacchusmon and Sirenmon/Ceresmon are equally sharing the burden of being the guardian of the forest, as Bacchusmon can fight but also be a place for the new Sirenmon to rest, so this wooden mech has its own sapience in a sense. Plus it has the grapes that we see throughout the Gear Forest on top of it, which is a key part of the Time Stranger story. Celebrations in the Gear Forest did not last as
look at that. It has a snake wrapped around one of the legs.
long as Bacchusmon or Ceresmon had hoped, as dark energy began thundering down on the treetops. Thinking quickly, Ceresmon took to the skies, but Bacchusmon used their tail to grip on. During this process, a miracle of nature happened. The two gigantic Olympos 12 members fused, creating Naturamon, a Digimon forged from the Gear Forest itself as its new god. And its first special move is the Forest's Bounty. Naturamon plucks its own grapes and throws them to itself and its allies to feed them all. Targeting all allies, it recovers HP based on the user's speed, and removes status abnormalities, injury, and disease. Then its other special move is the Wings of the Forest. Naturamon Rider, the Ceresmon medium equivalent for Naturamon, jumps off the tree mech. Its wings glint like blades and it flies down swiftly, cutting the ground as it goes and creating a large explosion beneath the opponent's feet. Targets all enemies. Performs wind physical attack at power 100 with a 90% chance to apply fire resistance down. And it has increased damage to targets.
That says 100% chance, so small error though.
Gets with evil or vegetation traits. That is the one that I think has the less strong connection of all of the ones in the video, Volcanusmon and Marsmon. But they are both Digimon with heavy story ties to the Factorial area and the Paradise Colosseum, which is in the Factorial area. Plus, if we look at the Roman mythology side to Volcanus and Mars, they're both lovers of Venus at one time or another. So I got HLR on board to create Tharsis-mon. HLR was inspired by the costume or armor of Absolute Superman. In Absolute Superman, his ship is his costume because of nanomachines, and HLR liked that idea
nanomachines, son.
Taking the arms and the big mech that Volcanusmon is in Time Stranger and turning that into part of the Digimon. The name Tharsismon comes from Tharsis, a volcanic region on Mars, with the largest volcanoes in the solar system, and there is also Olympus Mons, the tallest volcano on the planet of Mars. HLR was inspired by a comment he saw, saying that as Marsmon is a fighter and Volcanusmon is an otaku, the fusion should be some kind of gamer, a competitive fighting gamer. And in this version of the art, you can see the many arms here. Of course, these would be the big arms from Time Stranger distilled into a smaller, more lethal form. When Volcanusmon learned their fellow Olympos 12 member Marsmon competed in the Paradise Colosseum battles, Volcanusmon invited Marsmon down to the forge to share knowledge. Impressed with Volcanusmon's otaku-like energy, Marsmon proposed finding a way to combine their power, along with Volcanusmon's impressive arms. Volcanusmon was immediately enamored with the idea of becoming a 2-in-1 Olympian and agreed to form this powerful alliance with their new Aibo. The special moves are the Pavonis Trigger Strike, inspired by the Pavonis Mons on Mars, and a Trigger Strike being like a fighting game style move. The fire in its head flares and engulfs its body to deliver a lightning fast attack. Targeting one enemy, it performs fire magical attack at power 120, and the greater the user's stat buffs, the greater the damage. It also deals increased damage to targets with the weapon trait. Then is its Ascraeus Finisher EX. Again named after a thing on Mars, Ascraeus Mons, a massive extinct shield volcano located in the Tharsis region. It power bombs the enemy on high with all its arms. Picture Zangief from Street.
Now hold on, that sword, there is clear writing on it, and even though it is in Digitext, what does it actually translate to?
Fighter but times 100. Targeting one enemy and performing steel physical attack at power 150 with a 30% critical hit rate. It does however receive 20% HP damage from the attack recoil, but does increase damage to targets with evil trait. Our penultimate pairing is another one that's a little looser, and that is Minervamon and Marukimon. They're connected to me as defenders of Central Town, as key figures in Central Town. Though they don't interact a ton in the narrative, they're still like the Olympos 12 members most associated with the town, and in mythology they're also linked.
Plus, both of them are very beastly dressed.
There's a famous painting, Perseus armed by Mercury and Minerva. And if you consider the agent as our Perseus stand-in, this makes a ton of sense thematically, with Perseus overcoming trials such as defeating Medusa. Damn, Medusamon really should have been in this game. So I got Alltrade to create Caduceamon. Alltrade was inspired by the Caduceus, a herald's wand or staff of ancient Greek and to an extent Roman mythology. But also
this is an item normally held by Hermes.
So tied to Egyptian mythology mythology too. Associated with Hermes, who of course is the Greek equivalent of Mercury, which is the inspiration for Marukimon or Mercurymon in Japanese, and is generally associated with healing, and of course as a staff entwined with two snakes, just like the snake theming of Minervamon and Mervamon. Ultrade also made the loincloth red because he liked the idea of the red scarf Justimon and Aegiomon share in the narrative being like a through line. And he went more bird-like with the helmet, since both Minerva/Athena and Mercury/Hermes do have bird links. Minerva with owls and Mercury with roosters, apparently. For the sake of protecting their beloved central town, the Olympos 12 members Minervamon and Marukimon combined their power to lead the inhabitants of Central Town against a new looming threat, becoming Caduceumon. Its first attack is the Healing Venom, where it strikes an enemy with its snake arm, dealing heavy damage and healing Caduceumon. Targeting one enemy, it performs Dark Physical Attack at power 90, with a 70% chance to apply deadly poison and doing increased damage to targets with evil traits. Then it targets itself and recovers 75% of its current HP. And their second special skill is the Central Town Annihilation, where the villagers of Central Town are summoned to rush the opponent, targeting all enemies, performing Steel Physical Attack at power 120, with a 20% critical hit rate and a 50% chance to receive 10% HP damage from attack recoil, but it increases damage to all targets with evil traits. And finally are the two, I would say, leaders perhaps of the Olympos 12, Jupitermon and Junomon. They of course have an intrinsic connection in the wider Digimon lore, and Jupiter and Juno have connection in Roman and Greek mythology, with of course their Greek equivalents. Within Time Stranger specifically, Junomon knows the origin of Aegiomon, the Great Guardian, and when he chooses to be with Inori over her, plus some other reasons, she becomes a hysteric mode. But when purified and united at the end, their pairing makes a ton of sense. So I got Weirdomon to combine them together to create Saturnmon. Of course, Weirdomon was inspired by the Roman god Saturn, or the equivalent in Greek Cronus, the father of a lot of the gods. Trying to go with a more androgynous form because it's a...
Why did you have to show the one image of him actually consuming one of his kids?
Fusing of a very feminine looking Digimon and a very masculine looking Digimon. And as Cronus was the father of most Olympus gods and had a big scythe and was associated with time control, this makes a ton of sense. This is also why Chronomon I think is so in the narrative of the game, even though it's not quite spelt the same.
That does also make a lot of sense with the weapon.
And that name Saturnmon of course also ties to the planet Saturn, so Weirdomon added some rings around as a reference to the planet. A mythical holy intergalactic Digimon said to have appeared when an unprecedented crisis descended upon the digital world Iliad, a fusing of harmony between the lovers Jupitermon and Junomon. Saturnmon is said to unite all the fusions of the Olympos 12 to protect the digital world Iliad from a threat even stronger than that of the fearsome Chronomon, whose power...
Hey, so with all of them fused like that, would it go from the Olympos 12 to the Olympian 6?
Powers now reside in Saturnmon's Digicore. Grace Novamon reports directly to Saturnmon. Its first special skill is the planetary inversion. It summons the planet Saturn to crash down on its opponents, targets all enemies, and performs light physical attack at power 180. It always hits and
That says 110, so another arrow though.
Unfavorable compatibility. And then its final special skill, of course, had to be called Time Stranger. Summoning the power of Chronomon and purifying it, Saturnmon de-digivolves an opponent to a random lower generation and perplexes them. Targeting one enemy, performs light magic attack at power 120, with a 100% chance to apply de-digivolution. If the target's generation is lesser than the user's, it increases its damage. And also has increased damage to targets with the evil trait. Yes, Time Stranger Saturnmon's attack is like a good version of the Chrono devolution we see in the final fight. But that is it.
That's interesting.
All of our new DNA Digivolutions, fusions, whatever you want to call it, of the other Olympos 12 members from Digimon Story Time Stranger, now put together by their most clear relationships in that game. Fontusmon, the Neptunemon and Venusmon DNA Digivolution. Naturamon, the Bacchusmon and Ceresmon fusion. The DNA Digivolution of Volcanusmon and Marsmon, Tharcismon. Then Minervamon and Marukimon becoming Caduceumon. And finally, Jupitermon and Junomon DNA Digivolving to Saturnmon to join all...
So from the Olympos 12, I don't know what they'd be called. They'd be called the something 6.
Alongside the existing Grace Novamon in the new Olympos 6. Make sure you go check out all my artists. Their links are in the description down below. I really do appreciate them. And of course, once again, I thank you, my Sovereigns and my Dava Artbringer, ZDK14, Jeremy Babineau, Chaotic Prophet, and Murby Studios. You guys are amazing. Plus everyone else over on patreon.com/KhanEX. And who could forget my wonderful YouTube channel?
Small glitch from the editor, I think. Alright, everyone, that's going to be the end of today's video, and I hope you all enjoyed this. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below, and I'll see all of you next time when we flick back on. Till then, this is Fox, signing out. Peace.